I sat silently at the long 12-seat dining table, white linen stretched smooth across its surface, polished silver catching the flicker of candlelight. Everything screamed old money right down to the hand-cut crystal glasses and the carefully arranged duck confit on bone china plates. It was the annual Lewis family gathering in our Beacon Hill mansion, the one event each year where everyone put on their best mask and played the part of the perfect American dynasty. Across the table, my father, Richard Lewis, former Wall Street kingpin, raised his glass voice as smooth and calculated as his investments. "Amanda," he said, "starting next month, your financial support from this family will end." Silence, cold, sharp, not a gasp, not even surprise, just a flicker of polite tension. My mother Elizabeth tilted her head with a look of vague sympathy, the kind you give a stray dog outside Neiman Marcus. "You need to learn responsibility, darling. You're not a child anymore." My brother Evan, always the golden boy in tailored suits and inherited confidence, chuckled. "If your freelance tech work is worth anything, Amanda, you won't need the pocket money, right?" I sipped my wine. Steady hand, no tremble, not fear, contained fire. "Actually," I said softly, "I plan to make that announcement tonight myself." That earned me a few raised brows. From now on, I'll also be choosing who gets to stay in my life. And just then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, 4 missed calls. I glanced down. "Alicia Exec. Assistant. Secure Health missed calls. 4. Text Forbes needs confirmation before 8 p.m. They're locking in the billionaires in the making feature." I laughed. I hadn't planned on doing this tonight, but sometimes the universe hands you the bat and all you need to do is swing. "Excuse me," I said to the table. "My CEO is calling." CEO Madison Harvard Law grad family favorite future senator's wife tilted her head like I'd just barked in Latin. "Amanda, don't be ridiculous. You work at some little failed startup, you don't have a CEO." I placed my phone gently on the table-tapped speaker. The call rang once. Then Alicia's voice, smooth, commanding, impossible to ignore. "Amanda, Forbes needs confirmation. Are we holding valuation at $100 million for Secure Health ahead of next week's IPO?" Utter silence. I could hear my father's breath hitch. My mother's wine glass froze midair. "Yes," I said calmly, "and let's make sure they include the expansion into the European market." Alicia added quickly, "Forbes wants the photo shoot finalized by Monday. They're putting you on the cover for the Billionaires in the Making series." I looked around the table. Madison's jaw had literally dropped. Evan looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. My father, for the first time in my adult life, he looked off balance. "And yes," I added, "the IPO is being led by Marcus Steinberg's team." His eyes narrowed. "Marcus from Goldman." "You know him?" I asked sweetly. "I hired him," he said, voice low. I smiled. "And now he works for me." The silence was no longer awkward, it was tectonic. Madison finally stammered, "Wait, Amanda, are you saying you're—" "Rich? I own 51% of Secure Health," I replied. "Do the math." For the first time ever, I had control of the table, not just a seat power, and yet this was just the beginning. Because the real question wasn't how I built a $100 million healthcare tech empire. The real question was, why did I hide it from my family for 5 years, and why tonight of all nights did I decide to reveal it? My name is Amanda Lewis. I'm 28 years old. I didn't go to Harvard like Madison. I didn't inherit a hedge fund like Evan. I didn't show up on the Boston Globe Society page, and I didn't date aspiring senators. I was the middle child, the forgotten one, the question mark. I grew up in a pristine 3-story colonial mansion in Beacon Hill, where the floorboards didn't creak, the curtains were silk, and every painting on the wall was worth more than most people's annual salary. My father, Richard Lewis, ran a billion-dollar investment firm. My mother Elizabeth was a socialite queen, known more for hosting charity galas than actual acts of charity. Evan, my older brother, was the family's Pride Golf Championships, early Ivy League admission, and Wall Street stardom. Madison, my younger sister, was their crown jewel blonde brilliant and born to smile for the camera in designer dresses. And me, I fell in love with robotics at age 9. The first time I dismantled Madison's stereo, I didn't know how to put it back together. My mother slapped me and hissed, "Do you want to be some kind of maintenance worker?" But instead of crying, I hid the parts under my bed and studied them. Every wire, every chip, every logic path, I memorized them like scripture. By high school, I was winning state robotics championships. My parents never came. One year they flew to Aspen, instead said Evan needed a mental health weekend before finals. I took the trophy home in my backpack and slid it into a drawer. I don't think they ever knew I won anything. I got into MIT on a full ride. No legacy, no favors, just raw skill. I lived in a rundown dorm with mice in the walls and heat that came and went like bad Wi-Fi. I worked part-time in the computer lab to afford ramen and second-hand books. At graduation, I was named top of my department. The entire auditorium stood, but when I looked into the audience, the seats reserved for my family were empty. Later, I got a text from my mother. "Sorry we couldn't make it. Madison had cramps and needed a doctor. We'll celebrate another time." We never did. After graduation, I landed a job at a small healthcare tech company in Cambridge. 65 grand a year. In my father's world, that was lunch money. But for me, it was survival and education. I learned every level of the business back-end systems, HIPAA compliance, medical scheduling nightmares, patient frustrations. I began dreaming up a platform, one that could intelligently match patients to doctors based on need availability and urgency. No more 6-week waits for a specialist. No more endless call centers. I imagined AI triage encrypted video consults, real-time prescriptions. It was bold, risky, unstable, perfect. I was living in a 200 square foot studio in Somerville. No furniture, no oven. But I had a refurbished laptop, a whiteboard on the wall, and a dream. One night after debugging code for 6 hours straight, I looked at my bank account, $47, $312. I had saved every penny. I closed the laptop, exhaled, and made a decision. I was going to bet it all. I rented a closet-sized office in a co-working building that used to be a warehouse. The wallpaper peeled, the lights flickered, but it had Wi-Fi and a door that locked. It was mine. Then came Alicia. She applied for an assistant role, but the second she walked in white silk blouse skirt, hugging her hips, just enough to hint but never scream, I knew she was trouble. The good kind. She had the calm of someone who'd buried bodies, figuratively, I hope, and the eyes of someone who didn't buy into anyone's bullshit. "I know what you're doing," she said after skimming the prototype. "This isn't just software. This is revolution." "You think so?" I asked. She leaned forward, fingers toying with her necklace. "I've seen the look in your eye before. People who've been underestimated. They either drown or build kingdoms." Her smile was sharp enough to bleed. I hired her on the spot. Alicia didn't just become my assistant, she became my war general. We worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And at night sometimes, I'd catch her standing behind me, hand resting lightly on my chair, eyes locked on mine. Daring, inviting. She never crossed the line, but she stood close enough to remind me I could. There were nights I'd leave the office with her perfume still clinging to my coat. Nights she'd text, "If you get cold tonight, just know my door's never locked." I didn't go, not yet, because this wasn't about pleasure. This was war. I lied to my family. I told them I was a mid-level systems analyst. I said I still drove my old Honda Civic, even though I had a Tesla tucked in the garage. I wore Banana Republic to family dinners and left the Cartier in my bag. It wasn't about surprise, it was about self-defense. Because if they knew, they'd find a way to take it. I wasn't gonna let them, so I stayed quiet. Let them think I was average. Let them smirk behind champagne glasses while I quietly signed contracts that would change the future of American healthcare. But in the back of my mind, I kept hearing Alicia's voice. One day they'll kneel. The only question is, will you let them stand back up? And for the first time, I had to ask myself if I ever go back to that house, what exactly do I want them to see? I didn't just build secure health. I built a secret, and I guarded it like a weapon, not because I was afraid they'd ruin it, but because I knew exactly what my family would do if they found out. They'd smile, nod, throw a cocktail party in my honor, and then twist it until it became their story, their pride, their property, and I would become nothing more than a tool in the Lewis family brand. So I lied. I let them believe I was struggling, drifting, still figuring it out. I fed them vague answers and let their assumptions do the rest. Meanwhile, in a cramped, half-furnished co-working office that used to be a storage closet, I coded until my fingers cramped. I built the foundation of something that would tear open the very system that once told me I didn't belong. I signed NDAs with hospitals across New England. I refined the AI engine so it could triage symptoms better than most nurse lines. I built secure video consultation systems that would eventually handle tens of thousands of patients. I learned to pitch to investors in rooms full of white men twice my age who asked if I was the assistant or the intern. And then came the day Alicia walked in, wearing a white blouse unbuttoned just low enough to walk a knife edge between professional and sinful. Meeting with the investors today, she said, handing me a packet. You should probably wear that black dress again. You know, the one that makes your confidence look like a weapon. I gave her a look. And what does your outfit make you? She smirked, a reminder of what they can't have. The elevator ride to the pitch meeting was dead silent until she leaned over and whispered, Do you ever wonder what your father would say if he saw you now? I swallowed. He wouldn't see me. He never has. She brushed imaginary lint off my shoulder lips, close enough that I could feel her breath. Then maybe it's time you made him look. The funding round was a bloodbath. In the best way. We closed $12 million from a top-tier firm based in, ironically, Wall Street, the same street my father used to lord over like a king. With that money, I upgraded the office, hired real developers, built infrastructure, and I rewarded myself just once a rose gold Cartier tank watch and a black Celine sheath dress tailored to fit me like a secret. I still didn't tell my family. Instead, I kept showing up to family dinners in the Civic. I left the Tesla parked. I wore my backup heels, not the Louboutins I'd earned. I let Madison talk about her wedding guest list as if it were national security. I let my father nod approvingly at Evan's fifth investment property. They thought I was quiet out of shame, but I was quiet out of strategy. I wasn't ready to strike, not yet. But when the invitation arrived, an embossed card in gold trim for the annual Lewis family winter dinner, I knew it was time. The note inside was classic Elizabeth, please don't wear anything too different. That black long-sleeve dress from last year was acceptable. Madison's engagement is the focus. We want the press photos clean. I almost laughed. That night I dressed deliberately. The Celine dress, deep black, high slit, tasteful neckline low enough to draw a glance high enough to deny intent, heels that clicked like gunfire on marble, and the Cartier watch gleaming beneath the cuff just enough to catch light. In the mirror, I didn't look like middle child Amanda. I looked like a storm that learned how to walk in heels. I arrived on time. The mansion hadn't changed, Still the same towering pillars, still the same overpolished brass handles, still the same smell of money and self-importance. I was greeted like a distant cousin, hugs that didn't touch, smiles that didn't stay. Madison in her custom Vera Wang barely glanced up. "Oh, you made it." I smiled. Didn't want to miss the fireworks. Evan was already 2 martinis and boasting about his latest real estate flip in Aspen. My mother was orchestrating the appetizers, with surgical precision nodding to the hired help, like royalty bestowing mercy. Everything looked perfect. But everything was about to change. Dinner began. Wine was poured. My father stood up with his usual theatrical gravitas. "As always, this evening is about legacy," he said. "Each of you has achieved something worthy of the Lewis name. Evan, your new fund, brilliant. Madison, your engagement to Brian and his Senate campaign, impeccable timing." Then he paused, looked at me, and Amanda? Everyone turned. I didn't flinch. "We know you've been exploring opportunities. We hope you find something that suits you soon." I blinked, once, and smiled. I reached into my purse. One tap. The phone rang, loud, clear, echoing across the marble and crystal. I put it on speaker. Alicia's voice rang through the room. "Hey, just checking Forbes locked the photo shoot for the billionaires in the making cover, and Goldman's finalizing the IPO paperwork at 100 million valuation. Want to confirm before I send over to Nasdaq dead." Silence. My mother's wine glass never made it to her lips. My father's eyes narrowed like he was seeing a ghost. Evan's mouth opened slightly. Madison's fork stopped midair. And me? I kept smiling. "Yes, Alicia, confirm it, and add the European market expansion to the press kit." Click. The line went dead, and for the first time in 28 years, no one at that table could speak. No one could look away, and no one could pretend that I was invisible ever again. The moment I hung up, I didn't sit back down. I stayed standing, one hand resting lightly on the back of my chair, the other casually adjusting the Cartier watch on my wrist. The room was silent, like someone had pulled the plug on the entire performance. It was a delicious silence. I looked at my father, Richard Lewis, a man who once told me tech is a sandbox. Real money is made with suits and mergers. Now here he was staring at me like he just realized the daughter he dismissed might very well outrun him. "Secure Health," he finally asked, voice gravelly. "That's your company." I tilted my head. "It always has been." Madison leaned forward, eyes wide, wine forgotten. "Wait, you actually built that from a studio apartment in Somerville," I said. 50 grand scrape from ramen nights and overtime weekends. And an idea no one thought was worth anything until it was worth 100 million. Evan's fork clinked against his plate. "That's not possible." "Isn't it?" I replied. "I mean, I guess it depends who you ask me, or the 37 hospitals we've signed so far." That got him. My mother straightened her spine. "Amanda, dear, if this is some kind of overstatement, it's not. I cut in. In fact, if you'd ever bothered to ask what I was doing all those years, you dismissed me at dinners. You might have seen it coming." Across the table, Aunt Valerie, my father's estranged sister, the artsy black sheep of the Lewis family, smirked into her wine glass. "Told you the quiet ones always bite hardest." My father cleared his throat. "Well, regardless of the theatrics tonight, this doesn't change your position in the family. We want what's best for you. But the name Lewis carries responsibilities." There it was, the pivot, the mask sliding back into place. I took a breath. Time to pull the trigger. "Actually, Dad, I've started a scholarship program." "Oh," he said cautiously, "using the Lewis name, no." I locked eyes with him, using mine, just mine, the Amanda Fund. It's already raised $2.7 million in seed grants. girls in tech, first gen students, real impact, no trust fund strings attached. He didn't blink, but he didn't look proud either. He looked threatened. Madison chimed in, voice overly sweet. You know, Amanda Bryan's campaign could really use a healthcare innovation angle. Maybe you two could? No, I said. That one word sucked all the air from the room. No, she echoed, clearly stunned. I'm not a platform for your fiancé's optics. If he wants access to secure health, he can submit a proposal. At market rate. She flushed red. We're family. Exactly, I said calmly, which is why I'm offering you the same chance I offer strangers. Evan laughed dryly. So what, suddenly, you think you're too good for us? No, I said, leaning forward. I finally know I was never beneath you to begin with. My father's jaw flexed. This attitude is called boundaries, I said. Look it up sometime. I think there's a whole chapter in the books you used to ignore on emotional intelligence. My mother spoke up brittle and defensive. We supported your independence. You bailed on my graduation because Madison had a cramp. You cut me off financially. You ridiculed my work for years. That's not independence. That's erasure. The room fell quiet again, and then Alicia called again. This time I let it ring 4 times. Then I picked up. Yes. Her voice came through clear, confident, and entirely indifferent to the family drama unfolding on my end. Forbes confirmed the cover. Nasdaq is greenlighting pre-market launch. Also, Financial Times just requested a long-form profile. I smiled. Perfect. Send them my availability. I hung up, then turned back to the table. I'm leaving now, I said, gathering my clutch. I have real work to get back to, but thanks for dinner. It was illuminating. I took 2 steps, then paused. Oh, one more thing. Everyone looked up. I used to think I needed your validation, your praise, your love. I smiled faintly. I don't. And I walked out, into the cold Boston night, into a future I'd built brick by damn brick. Without them, I didn't walk out of the Lewis mansion. I claimed my exit heels clicking against marble, each step sharp, deliberate, unapologetic. No one followed me. No one dared. The door closed behind me with a soft but satisfying click, as if the house itself had nothing left to say. Boston's winter air bit through my dress, but I didn't feel it. I felt alive. My phone buzzed again as I stepped into the back of the black SUV waiting at the curb. Alicia, one new message. You want champagne waiting at the penthouse. Or something stronger, I smirked. Me surprised me. The next morning, the flowers started. White orchids, crimson tulips. One bouquet was so large it had to be delivered in 2 trips. My assistant's voice crackled over the intercom. Amanda, your parents sent this one. With a handwritten card. I didn't even look up from my laptop. Send it to the pediatric wing at Mass General. Seriously, seriously. I didn't need a gesture. I needed accountability, and they weren't ready to offer that, not even close. Then Evan asked for lunch. I agreed, not because I owed him anything, but because I wanted to see what it looked like when a man who once called me the creative disappointment had to sit across from me and pitch like his life depended on it. He wore his best suit. I wore all black. Alicia chose the outfit-tailored pants, silk blouse, diamond studs. Understated power. Her exact words had been, "Dress like they can't afford you." You look sharp, Evan said, pulling out my chair at a quiet restaurant overlooking the river. I am sharp, I replied. The waitress brought water. He stalled. Then finally, my firm is looking to invest in health tech. You're scaling. I thought maybe we could talk deal terms. I let the silence stretch. Then you want pre-IPO access. He nodded. It could benefit us both. And you think we're both equals now? His jaw tightened. I think we're family. Exactly, I said. which is why I'll extend you the same courtesy I offer every other investor, the formal pitch deck at full valuation with no backdoor clauses. You'll get in if you earn it, not because we share a last name. His smile faltered. I stood up. Evan, if you'd come to me years ago with an ounce of belief, I might have offered you a stake for a song. But you didn't. You came when it was safe, and I don't reward safety. I left him sitting there, jaw slack, ego bruised, and for once I didn't feel guilty about it. Not even a little. That night, Alicia was waiting at my place, red dress, wine glass in hand, barefoot leaning against the marble island in my kitchen like she owned the air I breathed. I dropped my bag and walked straight to her. No hesitation. She met me halfway, lips grazing mine before I could even speak. No more pretending, she whispered, pulling me close. Good, I breathed, because I was done with caution. We didn't make it to the bedroom. There was nothing careful about it. No slow undressing, no whispered promises. Just two people burning away years of denial. Hands, mouths, skin, breathless collisions in the low light of success, hard-earned and finally claimed. Afterward, we lay tangled on the floor, the city shimmering beyond the glass, like it had been watching us all along. She turned to me, her voice soft but steel-edged. Now that they've seen what you are, what's next? I stared at the ceiling for a long moment, then turned to her. I build the world I wish I had. 3 weeks later, Secure Health launched its IPO at $210 million. We rang the bell on Nasdaq at 9:30 a.m. sharp. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted. Alicia stood to my left in a white power suit, cool as ice. To my right were three women, one Latina engineer, one black data scientist, and one Indian American product lead. All under 35, all handpicked, all overlooked by the industry before I gave them keys to the kingdom. I didn't wear my family's name tag. I wore my own initials AML on a custom diamond pin Alicia had made for me, etched with the phrase she'd said that night we met, "Quiet ones build empires." I didn't smile for the cameras. I stared straight through them, because I hadn't just survived the fire. I'd learned how to make it burn for me. By the time the IPO closed, Secure Health had officially become one of the most talked about tech stories of the year. Valued at $210 million, oversubscribed by every major VC, and led by a woman who'd been labeled the forgettable middle child just months before. I wasn't just the founder anymore. I was a symbol. Investors wanted a piece. Politicians wanted photo ops. Suddenly, everyone who once called me reckless was calling me visionary. I didn't let it get to my head because I knew how quickly people flip their loyalty when power shifts. I'd seen it happen in my own family. That Monday, my inbox pinged with a message that made me laugh. From Madison Lewis, subject potential collaboration. Amanda Bryan's campaign is in talks with several digital health companies, but I told them nothing beats working with family. His team would love to explore a strategic partnership with Secure Health. Could you hop on a call sometime this week? No congrats. No, I'm proud of you. Just an ask. Typical. I didn't respond. So she tried again. This time, she called. Amanda, hey, she said, voice dripping sugar. Did you see my email I did? And I'm still deciding how many zeros I'd have to add to get myself to care. Silence. Then fake laughter. Oh my God, you're so funny. Listen, Brian's team is serious. They think you're a genius. They'd love to. I'm not interested in being anyone's campaign prop I cut in, especially not for someone who called my work a cute side hustle last Thanksgiving. That was taken out of context. No, I said. It was the context. She tried one more time. We're sisters. We should lift each other up. I smiled into the phone. Funny, I don't recall you ever doing that when I was drowning. Click. I didn't just hang up the call. I ended a chapter. That week, I hosted the launch of the Amanda Fund, a $20 million foundation dedicated to young women in tech, especially those from marginalized backgrounds. No pedigree required, no fancy recommendations, just passion, purpose, and guts. The launch event was held at MIT's main auditorium. Full house, spotlights, press. I walked on stage in a sleek white blazer dress and told the room, this isn't about proving myself anymore. It's about building the ecosystem I never had. People stood, people cheered, and in the third row, for the first time ever, my parents sat quietly watching, not leading. They didn't stand, they didn't clap loudly, but they stayed, and that in itself was a kind of reckoning. After the event, my mother approached me slowly, arms crossed, smile tight. You were impressive, she said. Thank you. I just wish we'd known. I looked her dead in the eyes. You could have. I was always right there. You just never looked. She said nothing. I said nothing more. We weren't going to hug, but we weren't going to lie to each other either. Progress, I guess. Later that night, I hosted a private dinner at my new townhouse in Back Bay. No senators, no hedge fund bros, just the people who built this with me. My team, my friends, and Alicia always. Alicia, who walked in late wearing a slinky black dress and a look that said, "You did it. Now what?" After dessert, she pulled me aside on the balcony. Was it everything you wanted? She asked. No, I said. It was more. She leaned in, lips brushing my ear. And do you still want more? I turned to face her. Her eyes searched mine, but not for approval, for permission. I want it all, I whispered. We didn't kiss, not then, but we didn't have to, because she already knew she had me mind, body, and battle scars. 2 days later, I got a call from my dad. He asked to meet, not at a country club or a steakhouse, but at a quiet cafe near the harbor. No tie, no assistant, just a man who once ruled Wall Street, now trying to reconnect with the daughter he never understood. I read the Financial Times article, he said after a long pause. It was impressive. Thank you. I want to be honest with you, he said. I didn't think you had it in you. But I was wrong. That's the first time you've said that to me? I know. He looked away. And I regret it. I sipped my coffee. I'm not here to rewrite the past, I said, but I'm not going to erase it either. He nodded. Fair enough. I'll have dinner with the family. I'll show up. I'll be civil, I continued. But don't mistake that for a merger. He chuckled. No, this time I know you're the one holding the equity. We sat in silence after that, but it wasn't cold, it wasn't forced, it was honest. Maybe for the first time. The morning of my final move began not with a press release, but with silence, the kind of silence that comes before a shift, a reckoning. By the time I stepped onto the stage at Nasdaq's New York headquarters, the cameras were already rolling, 1,000 flashing bulbs, reporters shouting my name, stock tickers scrolling my company's name across giant digital walls in Times Square. Secure Health Inc. IPO launch. I stood center stage in a navy silk power suit, hair-pinned tight face, calm heart thunderous. The bell rang. 9:30 a.m. We were live. We opened at $28, closed at $47. Within hours, my personal net worth had officially crossed 9 figures. I didn't cry. I didn't smile wide. I simply turned to the crowd, investors, journalists, CEOs, and nodded once, like a queen acknowledging her court. The article dropped that afternoon. Forbes, The Rise of Amanda Lewis, From Middle Child to Industry Titan. And right beneath the title, I don't owe anyone my success. I built it in silence, and now I own the noise. It went viral within minutes. That night, I hosted the real celebration, not the investor gala, not the tech conference after party. No, I threw a housewarming at my newly acquired townhouse in Beacon Hill, the same neighborhood where I once sat through humiliating dinners where every window used to remind me I didn't belong. Not anymore. This house, it had my name on the deed. This time the guest list was mine. My team, my mentors, my interns turned co-founders. Alicia, of course, in white sipping champagne, laughing with the very senators who once ignored me. And yes, my family came too. They weren't the center of the room anymore. They weren't on the microphone. They weren't on the guest of honor banner. They were in the background, exactly where they belonged. Midway through the night, Evan approached me, hands in pockets, eyes unsure. So, when do I get to pitch again? I tilted my head. You can't afford me. He laughed, but it wasn't real. Come on, just give me 5 minutes. What if I bring you something worthwhile? You already did, I said. He blinked. What, me? You brought me 10 years of rejection, doubt, and fire, and I turned it into this. I gestured to the room around us, to everything he could have believed in, but didn't. His smile faltered. You've changed. No, I said. I just stopped asking you to see me. Later that night, Alicia found me alone on the rooftop wind, gently tugging at her white satin slip. You did it, she said softly. We did it. She leaned against the railing beside me, handed me a glass of champagne. And now, she asked, now we scale, we fund, we build, and the past, I looked out at the glowing skyline. I won't erase it, I said, but it doesn't get to write my ending. She smiled. Good, because I have something for you. She handed me a manila envelope. Inside was the deed transfer of my parents' old summer house, the one they'd offered to Madison as an engagement gift. How did you? I have friends at the bank. And Madison's fiancé defaulted on a private loan last month. The property fell into limbo. I looked up at her. Consider it poetic justice, she said. Now it's yours. I didn't gloat. I didn't laugh. I just whispered, and I'll turn it into a retreat for young female founders. Alicia's eyes sparkled. Of course you will. 6 months later, the Amanda Fund opened its first coding academy in Atlanta. 3,000 applications, all from girls who'd been told tech isn't for you. We accepted 75, and in every classroom, I made sure there was a mirror mounted to the back wall, so each girl could see herself in the space, so each one knew you belong here. During my keynote at the grand opening, I said something I hadn't planned to. They told me I wasn't built for leadership, that I wasn't born for it, so I stopped waiting to be chosen. I built the empire they thought I'd never touch. Months after that, I found myself back in Boston for a gala. My mother approached quietly, an elegant wine-colored gown flowing behind her. She looked tired, older, softer. Amanda, she said, I saw what you did with the house. It's beautiful, thank you. She paused. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you know I'm proud of you. I looked at her, and I saw her not the polished mask, not the expectations, not the legacy, just a woman with regrets, and maybe finally a little clarity. I'm not angry anymore, I said, but I don't need your pride to move forward. She nodded, and for once didn't try to argue. Later that night alone in my study, I stared at the original blueprint for Secure Health taped coffee stained, scrawled with handwritten ideas from my nights in that freezing studio apartment. I smiled, not because of what I'd gained, but because of what I'd reclaimed. My voice, my worth, my story. And if some girl out there was being told she'd never amount to anything, I wanted her to hear mine and think, then maybe I will.